She looked me straight in the face, mid-bite, and said it in front of everyone. "Keep quiet. You always embarrass me." No yelling. No whisper. Just clinical. Precise. Like a scalpel. It was during dessert. The table had gone quiet. Forks paused mid-air. Someone coughed to break the tension. I sat there with half a strawberry on my plate, and a heartbeat so loud I could barely hear the background jazz. I didn't respond. I didn't flinch. I didn't defend myself. I just stopped. Not just my words, me. I shut off like a light. Inside, something collapsed. No crash. Just silence. The next day, I didn't say a word. I didn't pout. I didn't argue. I just disappeared emotionally. Like a ghost trapped in his own house. She noticed by the second morning. "Are you mad or something?" she said, brushing her teeth with the door open like nothing had happened. I nodded once. Didn't even look at her. My silence grew roots. It stretched into days. Into nights. Into shared spaces that felt like strangers' waiting rooms. She joked to her friends that I was going through a male menopause. They laughed. I heard her. I said nothing. But the silence, it started getting to her. She left her phone out one night. I wish she hadn't. I wasn't looking for anything. But it lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Laz. She texted him. "He's still doing that thing where he ignores me. It's honestly pathetic. I miss you." She missed him. So the silence? It wasn't just her punishment. It was her excuse. And that was the moment I knew. My quiet wasn't hurting her. It was just clearing space for someone else. I read that message twice. "I miss you." 2 short words. That's all it took to detonate everything I thought was still holding us together. I don't know what hurt more. The fact that she was talking to another man, or how casually cruel she was about it. As if I wasn't a real person anymore. As if I was some inconvenient habit she couldn't quite shake, like biting her nails or skipping breakfast. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there next to her, stiff as a corpse, listening to her breathe like she didn't just betray me with a flick of her thumb. I thought about waking her up. I thought about confronting her. But what was the point? She had already said what she wanted to say, just not to me. The next morning, she acted like everything was fine. She asked if I could take the trash out. I didn't answer. She put her makeup on while humming to some indie song I'd never heard before. I wondered if it was his favorite band. I started noticing things I hadn't paid attention to before. Her phone never left her side, even in the bathroom. She wore perfume to go get groceries. She smiled more, just not at me. But here's the part that twisted the knife deeper. A week after the dinner, she invited me to another event, another one of her networking things. I declined. She looked annoyed, but didn't push. Instead, she got dressed in this long dark green dress I hadn't seen in years. It used to be my favorite. She used to ask me, "Does this one still make you look twice?" That night, she didn't ask. She didn't even say goodbye. She came back after midnight. Her hair was a mess. Lipstick smudged. No explanation. I sat at the kitchen table. Didn't say a word. She glanced at me, sighed, and said, "This silent treatment thing is getting boring." I didn't flinch. I just looked at her, and I know she saw it. That moment. That flicker of panic in her eyes when she realized. I wasn't just being quiet. I was done performing. The silence wasn't a punishment anymore. It had become clarity. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lonely. She was occupied, entertained, replacing me piece by piece, and barely noticing. But I noticed everything. And what I found next, it confirmed more than just cheating. It revealed a secret she never intended for me to find. The thing is, when you start doubting someone you love, it doesn't stop with just one suspicion. It becomes a loop, a quiet paranoia that chews at the back of your brain during the most ordinary moments. She'd ask me to hand her the charger, and I'd wonder if he texted her while I was holding the cable. She'd sigh while looking out the window, and I'd wonder if she was imagining his face instead of mine. So I did the one thing I swore I never would. I opened her laptop. It wasn't locked. It never had been. Maybe she assumed I'd never go there, and honestly, she was right. I didn't go searching because I wanted proof. I went because I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to find Pinterest recipes and email newsletters and shopping carts full of shoes she'd never buy. Instead, I found a hidden folder. It was titled something absurd, Taxes 2019. Cute. Inside were screenshots, chats, photos, some of her, some of him, together, at places she told me she'd gone alone. A cafe across town, a lake house I didn't even know existed. There was one photo where she was wearing my hoodie, The faded maroon one I thought she'd thrown out. She was sitting on a dock, legs tucked up, laughing at something off camera. That laugh, it wasn't fake. It wasn't forced. It wasn't mine either. I closed the laptop. Slowly, carefully, like if I moved too fast, everything in the room might break. She got home 2 hours later, humming like always, carrying a grocery bag with exactly 3 things: oat milk, strawberries, and that specific granola only he ever texted her about. I had seen the messages. I asked her, "Why don't we ever go to the lake anymore?" She blinked. What lake? There it was. The reflex lie. No pause. No shame. Just a rehearsed emptiness. I nodded. Said nothing else. That night, I watched her sleep for hours. Not in a romantic way. Not in a creepy way. I just watched. I tried to understand how someone could be so physically close, but galaxies away. And around 3 a.m., something strange happened. Her phone buzzed once. She didn't wake. I reached for it. Not to read, just to look. But the lock screen didn't show a name. It showed a calendar notification. Thursday, 6 p.m., clinic, confirmation. Clinic? I sat back. I hadn't touched her in months. There's something uniquely horrifying about seeing a word like clinic on your wife's phone when you haven't touched her in weeks, maybe months. The screen went dark before I could process it, but it was burned into my mind like a scar. Thursday, 6 p.m., clinic, confirmation. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there listening to the tick of the hallway clock like it was counting down to something I wasn't ready to face. The next morning, I played it normal. I even asked if she wanted eggs, which made her raise an eyebrow because I hadn't cooked for her in weeks. She muttered, "Sure," without looking up from her phone. I watched her fingers move fast across the screen, probably texting him. I stirred the eggs like a man on autopilot, wondering if I should confront her now or wait until Thursday. But what was I confronting her about? I didn't even know what kind of clinic it was. My mind was spinning with theories I didn't want to believe. That night, I couldn't help myself. I searched the clinic name in her Google history. It popped up immediately, a private women's health facility. Discreet, high-rated, located 20 minutes away. No mistake. She was going there. Alone. And if the confirmation meant what I feared it did, then I was living inside a lie far bigger than just emotional betrayal. I was being replaced, rewritten, erased. But what hit me even harder than that possibility was this. She didn't think I'd notice. She didn't even bother hiding the event deep in some app or fake email. She left it in her calendar like I wasn't a person who could feel, like I wasn't someone who might put the pieces together. Either she didn't care, or she wanted me to find out. And I didn't know which version was worse. Thursday came. She left the house at 5:15. Said she had a late yoga class, and kissed me on the cheek. The first time her lips had touched me in over a month, and they felt like someone else's. She didn't see my hands shaking as I waved goodbye. I followed her. Not immediately. I waited 6 minutes. Then I took the back roads, staying far enough behind that she wouldn't see me in the rear view. I wasn't even sure what I'd do if I saw her walk into that clinic. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed confirmation of the confirmation. At 5:52, she parked. I stayed across the street, engine off, heart sprinting. She got out slowly, checking her phone one last time. She didn't look anxious. She looked relieved, like whatever was about to happen was a step forward, not backward. She disappeared through the glass doors. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles ached. 30 minutes later, she came back out. No bag, no paperwork, just a quiet look on her face I'd never seen before. And then she did something that completely broke me. She smiled. Not the polite smile. Not the fake one she gives at work events. A real smile. And I realized, whatever she left behind in that building, it was something she had never wanted to share with me in the first place. I watched her drive off, still smiling faintly, like she'd just gotten closure on something I wasn't meant to know existed. I didn't follow her home. I couldn't. I sat in my car for almost an hour, in the same spot across the street from the clinic, watching people come and go. A teenage girl walked in with her mom. A couple in their 30s left holding a small envelope in each other's hands. Every possibility ran through my head like a film reel on fire. When I finally got home, she was already in bed, lights off, her back turned toward my side. Like nothing happened, like she hadn't walked into that building and come out visibly lighter. I undressed silently, heart still throbbing against my ribs, and lay down without brushing my teeth. My mind couldn't stop replaying that moment, the look on her face, that smile, that terrible, private smile. The next morning, I asked her directly. I didn't yell. I didn't even sound angry. I just said, "Was your yoga class nice?" She looked up from her toast. "Yeah, it was good." "Why?" I held her gaze for a moment too long. She blinked first and reached for her coffee. That's when I knew. She wasn't going to admit anything unless I confronted her with details. But I didn't have any yet. So I did what any pathetic, heartbroken husband would do. I waited until she left the house that afternoon. Hair curled, makeup done, said she was meeting a friend from college. I went to the bedroom, opened her nightstand drawer, and found her planner. Not the digital one, the real one. She always kept the old-school kind, the one with handwritten notes, doodles, meal plans, and color-coded tabs. There it was, the clinic's name, scribbled in soft ink. And underneath it, a torn business card paper-clipped to the page. It wasn't from the clinic. It was from a law firm, family law. A single partner listed at the bottom, and handwritten across the top margin, in her familiar handwriting, were 3 words. Not yet. Soon. That was when my stomach flipped. This wasn't just about another man. This wasn't even about a clinic. This was strategy. She wasn't trying to hide a betrayal. She was preparing for an exit. And I realized then, with this card trembling in my fingers, that I wasn't living in a marriage anymore. I was living in a countdown. I stared at that business card for a long time. It felt heavier than it should have, like it carried gravity. Not yet. Soon. I kept reading it over and over until the words blurred into a threat. It wasn't the kind of note you write to remember something. It was the kind you write to remind yourself not to act prematurely. That's when it hit me. She wasn't scrambling. She wasn't covering her tracks in panic. She had time. She had patience. She had a plan. And I had no idea where I fit in it. Or if I ever did. I didn't confront her that day. What was I going to say? "Hey, I broke into your private planner while you were out pretending to catch up with college friends. And now I know you're planning to destroy me legally, but apparently not just yet." No, I couldn't say anything. If she was waiting for a reason to pull the trigger, I wasn't going to give her one. Not yet. That night, I did something different. I smiled at her. I asked about her day. I offered to order sushi. She seemed caught off guard, wary, but not suspicious. We ate in silence. I watched her eyes every time her phone buzzed. Once she turned it over quickly. Once she excused herself to check a work thing in the bathroom. When she came back, she looked flushed, distracted. I didn't press. It was the first time in weeks I felt like I was watching her lie instead of her watching me break. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek again. She used to kiss me on the lips, slow and sleepy, like she didn't want to leave. Now it was a stamp, a placeholder. She left in her usual gray coat, the one with the tiny tear in the sleeve I kept offering to fix. 10 minutes later, I followed her. She didn't go to work. She didn't go to coffee. She didn't go to him, either. She went to the same law office printed on that card. She parked down the street, walked in like she belonged there, and didn't look back once. No hesitation. No check over the shoulder. She was ready. But here's the thing. So was I? Because the night before, while she was sleeping, I made a copy of that business card. And I made an appointment of my own. The office was warmer than I expected. Carpeted floors, fake plants, soft jazz humming from the ceiling. A woman at the front desk offered me tea. I declined. I wasn't here for comfort. I'd made the appointment under my middle name. I told myself it was to avoid tipping her off, but really? I think I just wanted to feel like someone else for a while. Someone who had control. Someone who wasn't being slowly erased. When they called me in, I didn't say much. I let the attorney speak first. I watched how he explained things, timelines, property, documentation. He had a calm voice. Professional. Almost too neutral. I wondered if he recognized my last name. I wondered if he had already heard her side. I didn't ask. When he slid a blank intake form toward me, I didn't fill it out. I just asked one question. Would you still represent me if my wife is already your client? He looked up. Just a flicker of surprise, quickly buried. He cleared his throat and said, "I'd need to check for a conflict of interest." That was all I needed to hear. I stood up, shook his hand, and left. I wasn't here to file anything. I just wanted to know which side of the table I'd been sitting on without realizing it. And now I knew. That night, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I looked her in the eyes. She was brushing her hair in the hallway mirror. I stood behind her, not too close, just enough to catch her gaze in the reflection. She froze mid-stroke. I said, "Do you love him?" Silence. Not the shocked kind, the calculating kind. Her eyes flicked once to my reflection, then back to her own. Finally, she said, "I don't know." That answer didn't hurt like I thought it would, because it was honest. She didn't know. Or she did and didn't want to say it. Either way, the illusion was broken. There was no repair manual for that kind of answer. I nodded, said nothing else. We slept in the same bed, backs turned, as always. But this time, I didn't feel powerless, because I had one more move left. And it wasn't what she, or anyone, was expecting. The next morning, I made coffee for both of us. Not out of habit, out of clarity. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't wounded or desperate. I had finally crossed that quiet, invisible line between being someone who waits and someone who decides. She came into the kitchen wearing that soft blue robe I bought her years ago. She smiled, out of reflex more than warmth, and reached for the mug I'd already placed on her side of the table. For a second, it almost looked like a normal morning. Then I handed her a small envelope. No lawyers, no threats, no screaming. Just a letter, handwritten, honest, final. I told her I knew about the clinic, about Laz, about the law office. But I didn't write it with venom. I wrote it with peace. I told her I wasn't here to punish her. I wasn't here to fight for something she'd already emotionally left. I told her I forgave her. Not for her sake, but for mine. I told her I wanted out. Not to escape her, but to reclaim myself. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just whispered, "I thought you'd scream at me." I smiled. No, I already did that. Just silently. She stood there, holding the envelope, and for the first time in months, she looked small. Not manipulative. Not cold. Just lost. And I realized she never expected me to walk away without a scene. She was ready for war. But I brought surrender. Not weakness, closure. That weekend, I moved into a small apartment near the coast. Nothing fancy, just quiet. I started jogging again. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. I bought a plant I haven't killed yet. I sleep better. Not because everything is perfect, but because I'm no longer stuck in someone else's story. People think silence is weakness. But sometimes, silence is the loudest way to say, "I deserve more than this." So yeah, she left. Emotionally. Strategically. Quietly. But I left too, with my dignity and a future. And I think that matters more.